Manus MP says closure of detention centre was expected. PM opens 9 million kina state-of-the-art building. And preparations underway for the visit of India's president.
This is National EMTV News with Lorraine Genia.
Good evening and welcome to Wednesday's news. With news of the impending closure of the Australian Detention Centre on Manus Island in sight, Manus Open member Ronnie Knight says although local business houses and employees will be affected, he is confident that the island province is resilient and will bounce back if the centre is closed down. Knight says the ruling by the five-man Supreme Court bench yesterday to find the detention illegal and an order to end the detention did not come as a shock, as it was always known that the centre would eventually be closed down one day.
PNG's highest court yesterday found the detention of asylum seekers in Manus to be illegal and indirect of their right to personal liberty, as stated in Section 42 of the PNG Constitution. It is too early at present, Knight says, to say whether the Australian-run detention program will close down for good or if the Australian and PNG governments will try to find a way around to keep it open.
A lot of young people will be unemployed, and hopefully they have the skills now to apply to other businesses and maybe outside of the province, with what they've learned, and maybe they have been trained that they can get jobs in other centres.
Whilst the Australian Immigrations and Border Protection Minister Peter Dutton is adamant Australia will not back down from its offshore processing policy, the local member says, with the locals as peaceful as they come, having over 800 immigrants wandering freely into the island community is a recipe for more social problems.
The only thing now is for our Minister for Immigration and the Australian Minister for Immigration and our Prime Minister and the Australian Prime Minister to come to some sort of agreement to sort this thing out. The feeling that we should just open the doors and let them have a free home in Manus will not work out. It's just bringing more problems in
Mr. Knight says he hopes the local governor, himself and local leaders are involved in further discussions regarding the centre, as opposed to how they were caught off guard with the initial discussions when the centre was reopened. When asked about the half-completed and proposed Australian-funded projects for the province as part of the package, he said Manus has kept its part of the bargain by helping where it could. Therefore, the Australian government must keep its end of the bargain by delivering all that was promised.
Well, we fully expect them to do what they promised us to do, and we expect them to continue with what they are doing, and we expect those things to be honoured. Obviously, it's not our fault this thing is folded. We played our part. We tried to help Australia. We ended up adopting the problem, and we tried our best. And unfortunately, we cannot circumvent the highest court in the land if they reckon that it is an issue that is above the government's hands, and that they've taken it out of our hands now and put it back in Australia's lap. There's nothing much we can do.
Melissa Gaviro, National EMTV News.
Meanwhile, Prime Minister Peter O'Neill has announced in a statement that the Manus Regional Processing Centre will now be closed following the decision of the Supreme Court of Papua New Guinea. Taking into account the somewhat negative impact the closure will have on the Manus economy, PM O'Neill says the government will work with Australia to seek to minimise damage to businesses and workers. Many small and medium enterprises and their employees, over 500 of who are Manus locals, will now be out of work. He says the PNG government welcomes the outcome of the ruling and will immediately ask the Australian government to make alternative arrangements for the asylum seekers currently held at the Regional Processing Centre. He says successful refugee applicants, on the other hand, will be invited to live in Papua New Guinea only if they are willing to. The Prime Minister said negotiations with Australia will focus on the time frame for closing the Manus facility and managing the settlement of legitimate refugees who are interested in staying in the country. The Supreme Court has adjourned the hearing on the appointment of the new Eastern Highlands Acting Provincial Administrator, Alvin Inamo. A three-man bench made the ruling this morning after lawyer representing the court reinstated PA Solomon Tato asked for an adjournment. Tato's lawyer, George Lau, told the court a contempt proceeding was in place and he applied for the case to be heard following the outcome of that proceeding. Tekla Gunga reports.
The three-man bench include Justice Godwin Paul, Justice Derek Hodson, and Justice Don Sawon. The adjournment was granted on 4 grounds after lawyers representing Eastern Islands Governor Julie Soso and the National Executive Council appointed Provincial Administrator Samson Akunai opposed to the adjournment. Justice Hudson told the lawyers it would be a waste of judicial time if the hearing on Inamoy's appointment was heard before the Supreme Court hears the outcome of the contempt proceedings. On April 19th, the Supreme Court cited EHP Governor Julie Soso, Public Service Minister Sepuka Temu, and Department of Personnel Management Secretary John Kali for contempt of court. Chief Justice Salamo Injia cited the three after Inamoy was appointed acting PA despite a national court order restraining the appointment of another acting PA. Currently, there are 2 stay orders in place. The first stay allows Tato to act as the PA, while the second stays the appointment of Inamoy to the position of PA. Tekla Gunga, National EMTV News.
Police Commissioner's lawyer Nicholas Tema will address the National Court next Monday on the court proceedings that were openly discussed by his client Gary Baki. These proceedings were listed as Baki's terms of reference when he ordered the temporary closure of the National and Anti-Corruption Directorate following a court order staying the suspension of NFACD head Matthew Demaru. Tema will answer to Justice Colin McKyle on why Baki discussed these proceedings in another forum while they are before the National and Supreme Courts. These matters include the powers of the Police Commissioner when terminating or suspending a police officer. The Waigani Committal Court today dismissed an application filed by former Lands and Physical Planning Secretary Romilly Kilapat accusing 2 police investigators of receiving bribes. The court found nothing improper, saying that the accused had received travel allowance but not bribes. Both were investigating Mr. Kilapat, who was charged for conspiracy to commit a crime and misappropriation of public funds when he was still the secretary.
These 2 investigators are police prosecutor John Waumuru and an investigator from the National Fraud and Anti-Corruption Directorate. Mr. Kilapat's lawyer Greg Shepherd filed the application on March 8, accusing the police investigators of receiving payments from other sources to instigate the investigation. However, Senior Magistrate Cosmas Bidar said there was no abuse of the investigation. The 2 investigators had in fact received duty travelling allowance and so the application was dropped. Both, including other investigators, were investigating Mr. Kilapat for allegedly misusing public funds worth more than 200,000 kina. This substantive matter will be heard on May 18. Vasinata Yama, National EMTV News.
A student killed, buses stoned, and at least 3 others are in critical condition in a fight between Markham Valley Secondary School students and villagers. EMTV News spoke to students along the highway and they say the fight broke out last night when a drunken male student was attacked after he verbally abused storekeepers at Mutsing Station. He was beaten and students retaliated, resulting in injuries and the killing. This morning, the fight escalated when parents mobilized with the students. Police mobile squads from Leh were at Umi this morning to contain the fight. The situation is still tense. There is a new vaccine for dengue fever disease called Dengvexia. However, the World Health Organization has revealed that the new vaccine will not be approved for use in Papua New Guinea until all requirements are met. Epidemiologist Dr. Boris Pavlin says approval must be given by the National Regulatory Agency.
One of the World Health Organization's rules
is to promote development of new vaccines for diseases. One vaccine recently endorsed is for dengue that has been made available only to few countries, approved by the National Regulatory Agency.
Just a couple weeks ago, WHO endorsed the new dengue vaccine that has been made available to a few countries, and that's an exciting prospect for us at some point in the future, although it's still a bit early for us to really be considering that here in PNG. WHO endorsed the new dengue vaccine that has been made available to a few countries, and that's an exciting prospect for us at some point in the future, although it's still a bit early for us to really be considering that here in PNG.
In principle, the dengue vaccine can be used in Papua New Guinea. However, Dr. Pavlin, in response to MTV News questions, said more information is required to properly manage dengue before the new vaccine can be rolled out.
Before a new vaccine can be introduced to Papua New Guinea or any other country, we have to consider the costs and the benefits. For example, we have well-known established vaccines that the national government recommends for its vaccine policy here that people still aren't getting at the levels they need to get it. You know, it may be wiser to focus on making sure that those key vaccines that are already approved get better use in the country. For example, measles, for example, pertussis or whooping cough, things like that.
Meanwhile, Dr. Pavlin said the World Health Organization is working closely with the National Health Department to provide the rapid testing kits for initial dengue test.
Has also worked with the Department of Health to provide the rapid testing kits that we can distribute throughout the country to anywhere that's having dengue-like illness, so they can at least get that initial testing that suggests that it's dengue, and then we can send them the tests further along up to the Institute for Medical Research for confirmation.
Fabian Hakalitz, National MTV News.
And among stories after the break, preparations for the visit of India's president and the opening of the state-of-the-art NDB building in Mount Hagen, and Number One Super announced an after-tax profit for the 2015 financial year. Stay with us. Welcome back to Wednesday's news. President of the Republic of India, His Excellency Pranab Mukherjee, is expected to arrive in Papua New Guinea tomorrow for a two-day official visit. President Mukherjee is the first ever president of India to visit the country. Welcome signs have been put up along the main roads of the nation's capital. He's expected to meet with the government and with Prime Minister Peter O'Neill to discuss matters of mutual interest. The president is also expected to visit the University of Papua New Guinea, where he will garland the bust of India's icon Mahatma Gandhi. He will depart Papua New Guinea on Friday and travel on to New Zealand. The government has again reiterated its commitment to grow the country's SME sector by commercializing the National Development Bank. This was deliberated by Prime Minister Peter O'Neill in Mount Hagen yesterday during the opening of a 9 million kina state-of-the-art building for NDB Mount Hagen branch. This new entity will be known as the Small to Medium Enterprise Banking Corporation. Michelle Amba with this report from Madang.
The new building will also house the National Development Bank's microbank, the People's Microbank. This is the 5th People's Microbank in the country, with 2 more branches to be opened later this year. Public Enterprise and State Investments Minister William Duma commended the bank for bringing its services to the people of Mount Hagen City and the Highlands region.
There is a People's Microbank, now Development Bank lawyer. All these things happen when there is political leadership and direction.
Former NDB boss, now Minister for Trade, Commerce and Industry Richard Maru, announced his ministry's intention to bring to Cabinet a policy for reserve list.
One of something I had in my fellow Papua New Guineans have also. Is have hard lobby makan law commercial banks, or asking plenty question, kind transaction fee. Now make him difficult or man many lo plate lo gona. Excessive or banking services me through no ka. Also mata me come lo parliament or before me lose him. NDB me talking me must come up in bank lo you me yet. the new PNGPC must start. This is the start of a journey. Now, before the end of the year, behind, we want to bring back PNGPC in a different form. You must kiss him back all business where all foreigner running stuff now. And we start with the policy and me like talk out today. Me plan him law now, law bring him back reserve list now. Me like Karamsla law go to parliament law. We are going to bring the law back to cabinet this year and parliament. Now, Mr. God and support William Duma. Now, all leaders of Western Islands, all leaders of Papua New Guinea, you must pass him law or some more legal business where you need him 10 million and in it to start him.
In order to implement this policy, the minister called on the Prime Minister to fully commercialize the bank before the end of the year in order to grow the country's SME sector. The Prime Minister said once NDB is commercialized and transformed, ordinary Papua New Guineans would have sufficient funding and concessional rates and flexible terms to grow their SMEs.
Time become the government, we plan now give him NDB close to 100 million kina now. Look, kirapi mo this bank na billion bank all exim this money na working all branches around the country. Where you black and go na borrowing money in a working business. Look, this play here you may launch him as a minister to talk SME policy. Look, kirapim 450 nuclear businessman marry inside of 450,000 nuclear businessman marry inside the country by year 2030. You know that Narpla Road lo wokim Desla Bank Balview.
The establishment of the SME Bank comes under the financial inclusion strategy of the recently launched SME policy. Michelle Amba, National MTV News, Mount Hagen.
On a related note, NDB has 7 branches in the Highlands region and has funded an estimated 481 million kina worth of loans to over 2,300 recipients over the last 5 years. Half of this was lent out by the Mount Hagen branch, making the office the largest in the region and by far PNG. Michelle Bird with more.
The National Development Bank has been instrumental in economically empowering the women of the Highlands region. Out of the 481 million kina in funding to the region over the last 5 years, close to 24 million kina was lent to over 500 female entrepreneurs from NDB's Women and Business Desk. A good number of trucks, PMVs and hire cars operating in the Highlands were funded by NDB. An estimated 400 clients were funded close to 26 million kina in equipment finance.
Small business, emi lifeline, blo community blo yumi. Emi ba kirapim sit down, kirapim community. Now Western Islands, emi one blo leading borrower, blo Desla Bank. Emi one blo leading borrower lo country. Mi blo lagi mi blo borrowing more yet. Come here tomorrow time bank you open to put in more application.
For the ordinary villager, the next billion, NDB works closely with local MPs and have delivered 6 new district credit schemes over the last 5 years. The regional expansion has provided more jobs. The opening of the regional office with 2 new branches is a strategic step that may lead to successful endeavors in the agriculture and tourism industry in the Highlands region. Michelle Bird, National MTV News.
Papua New Guinea's largest super fund, Number One Super, is announcing to its members that the 2015 annual statements are now available for collection. In February, Number One Super announced a strong after-tax profit of 280 million kina for 2015. The strong earnings enabled the fund to declare a 5.8% credit rate, which has already been credited to members' accounts.
Number One Super has advised members to visit their branches nationwide to collect their 2015 annual statements. Those members with smartphones can use their new NSL app to download their statements directly to their phones.
That's from a net profit of 280 million kina being distributed to member accounts as 5.8% interest.
Chief Manager Member Services Charlie Gilichibi explained that the fund has decided not to deliver member statements through their postal addresses to protect members' information.
Previously, Number One Super used to issue hard copy statements. What we realized in that process was 40% of the statements never reached members. So we have changed the process for security's sake. Benefit of that is that in 2015, we registered 0 fraud. Have not detected any frauds yet for 2015, so it's a remarkable achievement for number one super.
Mr. Gilichibi also urged members to update their information to prevent long verification processes and delays in the case of death of a member and payouts to beneficiaries and next of kin.
Currently, we have about 70,000 members with correct details sitting on our databases and records. We still need another 50,000 members to come forward, visit a number one super branch, and update their biodata information.
Members can contact the fund's call center for more information. Deli Waigeno, National EMTV News.
And now looking at our finance news, the Kina opened 10 points lower at $0.3175 in the interbank markets. At Bank South Pacific, your Kina was buying $0.3100 $0.3974 Australian dollars, $0.2713 euro, and 34.24 Japanese yen. Looking at commodity prices at New York close, gold, coffee, and cocoa closed higher, while copper closed the day unchanged. Palm oil and copper closed lower, while crude oil closed the day higher. And on the stock market, the Dow Jones closed at 13.08 points higher, the ASX closed at 39 points lower, and the All Ordinaries closed at 35.63 points lower. Wednesday's news continues after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back to National EMTV News. Recent floods in East Sepik has affected the lives and daily activities of people from Keram village of Angaram district. A brief received by EMTV News today confirmed that floods are a result of prolonged rain which caused the Sepik River to burst its banks. After 3 days of continuous rainfall, the water increased by 370 centimetres, an unprecedented level compared to previous years. The worst affected area is Keram Grass Country, Kambaramba, Wom and Raten villages. Flooding has also caused hazards like contaminated water, flood-related sicknesses and diseases, dying animals, hunting and fishing grounds underwater, and weeds blocking the river system. Sources said at least 3 children and 1 teenage boy have died of drowning. Many others, especially children, are suffering from sicknesses. Villagers are appealing for a quick intervention from government authorities to assist with relief supplies. Dialogue to set up a police station in Turubu local level government will soon commence between Angaram district and the East Sepik provincial administrations. It comes as Turubu is slowly developing into a station where government services can be accessible. Angaram MP Salio Waipo made the proposal during the commissioning of a mill for the Sepik oil palm project.
The announcement signals the support of the Angaram District Administration in bringing government services like health and education into Turubu. Local MP Salio Waipo says as the LLG is developing into an income avenue for East Sepik, the establishment of a police station will minimize social issues that are likely to occur.
Development income, social issues to arise. So may sit down with the district administration DDA na passing the police station.
The proposal is linked to the establishment and operations of the Sepik oil palm project in the area. Since the project was set up, it created spin-off benefits for locals and allowed them to have birth certificates through the registering of incorporated land groups or ILGs. With that advantage, locals have opened up trade stores to sell store goods, including fuel.
Development income, social issues to arise. So may sit down with the district administration DDA na passing the police station.
The Angaram District Development Authority has gone one step further in supporting the project. 1.3 million kina was invested in the project to build infrastructure that will benefit the community.
Mibla DDA, appointing, approving 1.3 million, but Mibla album line infrastructure is on Lotisla. But Mibla supporting company, looking at 1.3 million, working over the infrastructure, Mibla.
The money is from the Ngoram District Support Improvement Program funds. Thekla Gunga, National MTV News.
A victim of the failed local level government elections has called on the government to reconsider its decision to combine national and LLG elections. President of Hagen Rural Local Level Government and Deputy Governor of Western Highlands Provincial Assembly, Y. Rapa, made the call yesterday. He told the Prime Minister during the launching of Mount Hagen City Authority yesterday that the councillors in the Highlands region affected by the failed LLG elections want the government to combine the two elections.
Election, you may not go, you may stop. Western Highlands from the government, Bilixim Meta go court. Government believe the election failed, but you will councillors continue. That's all. We will of Western Highlands seems like Meta go court. That's all. This is the LLC election. And when the AV stop, please no one bring on the national election. National election must go from Hambet. Now LLC election, people must go no time from people.
And Trokai Sports is up next. Stay tuned.
Trokai Sports.
Welcome to Trokai Sports. Today marks 200 days to go on the countdown towards the kickoff of the FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup in November. Local Organising Committee Chief Executive Officer Seamus Martin said a lot has been happening behind the scenes to ensure that PNG successfully hosts the FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup come November.
The coming months will see the launching of the mascot, trophy and the balls that will be used during the tournament. The Tri-Nation Series between the PNG Women's Under-20 and USA and Japan is expected to be an exciting build-up for the local organizing committee. A team of host broadcasters, including FIFA TV, are in the country to map out the best possible camera positions for the telecast of the tournament.
This is a technical visit for FIFA TV to make the final technical solution for all four of the stadiums for the Under-20 Women's World Cup. And we're basically going through each camera position, broadcast compounds, working out cabling routes, and the final setup of each broadcasting platform in the stadium.
It's very important for them because they will be running the broadcasting coverage of the matches to 100 countries around the world. The team comprises of representatives of host broadcaster services, Media Pro and Television, who are the transmission service providers to the host broadcasters, and FIFA TV.
It's important because this is the way everyone in the world gets to see these games that are being played in Papua New Guinea. They'll be on in the United States, they'll be on in Europe, they'll be on in Japan, Korea, wherever the games are being televised. This is the window to the world watching these games, so it's important that we get it right and we put the games and Papua New Guinea in the best light.
So far they have visited Sir John Guy Stadium and the National Football Stadium, and they will inspect potential international broadcasting centre sites. The team will also be meeting with EMTV, who have the broadcasting rights to telecast the tournament within PNG and Telecom PNG. An estimated 200 million viewers will be watching the FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup from 100 countries worldwide. The FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup will be held from November 13th to December the 3rd. Shane Saroya, National MTV Sports.
The experience of playing against the best clubs in the Oceania region has made Lay City Dwellers a stronger team than they ever were in previous years. Captain and striker Raymond Ganemba believes his side is still capable of improving, and given a chance, Lay City will make their presence felt in future Champions League.
The OFC Champions League has undoubtedly brought out and tested the character of one of Papua New Guinea's most enigmatic strikers in recent years. As captain of both club and country, Raymond Ganemba has been instrumental in the success of his home team, the Lay City Dwellers, as they won back-to-back finals in the Telecom National Soccer League.
He takes a shot.
Debuting in the OFC Champions League in the year 2016 gave the veteran striker yet another opportunity to feature at the highest club competition in the region after having had previous experience with Hikari United. Whilst Ley City failed to come away with a single point after 3 matches, Gunemba has stated that the experience has proved invaluable for him and his teammates. When commenting on the goal he scored against now reigning champions Auckland FC, Raymond added a touch of humor about it.
With the goal, like me feeling it's a blessing from God. It's especially like New Zealand, I'm minus and misses every time we play against the New Zealand team, I always score a goal against them, so it's not new to me.
And that has also impressed national coach Flemin Seretslev, who only a fortnight before had rewarded Gunemba with yet another honor, the captaincy of the country.
He's a player with special abilities. He's a very good dribbler. You could say he has a magic left foot.
And he's still got that natural goal scoring instinct. For me, he's a natural goal scorer. He's someone that he knows where the goal is, he can score goals.
The future looks bright for Gunemba, who will also feature heavily for the country in the upcoming OFC Nations Cup to be held here in Papua New Guinea in May. Jeremy Moggy, National EMTV Sports.
And the extended interview with Raymond Gunemba can be seen on tonight's episode of Football First at 8:30 p.m. Now, Papua New Guinea has no reason to fear any footballing nation in the Pacific leading up to the OFC Nations Cup. These were the words from the PNG men's national football coach Fleming Seretslev after reflecting on the performances of PNG's champion teams in Ley City Dwellers and Hikari United during the OFC Champions League. Papua New Guinea will be facing New Caledonia, Tahiti and Samoa during the Nations Cup, which also serves as a World Cup qualifier.
Comparing our national team players to the national team players from the other teams in the region, I'm very confident that we can make good results when it comes to the Nations Cup. I don't see why we should be afraid of any of the teams participating there. Our players are absolutely even as good as they are, and maybe we have the advantage that most of our players in the national team are coming only from 2 teams, which make it much easier for me to play the team together as a team.
Trukai Sports continues after the break. Stay with us.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome back to Trukai Sports. The Tongan government has been urged by the Pacific Games Council to immediately begin efforts to secure design and construction contracts for all sporting facilities and venues for the 2019 Pacific Games. The PNG government has committed to upgrading Tonga's national stadium and high-performance centre for their athletes. President of the Pacific Games Council has expressed his concerns over the lack of progress in implementing Tonga's Games Master Plan during the 2019 Pacific Games Audit and Governance Authority meet in Nuku'alofa. Although changes have been made with additions for a playing field and a warm-up facility at the police training compound, Vidya Larkin has also recommended for the original plan for tennis and lawn bowls facilities at the Tonga High School to be retained. Tonga is also yet to decide on the 26 sports it will be able to cater for in 2019. The Tongan government is currently receiving assistance from donor countries for the development of sporting facilities. Papua New Guinea is assisting with the redevelopment of Taufaiva Stadium for track and field events, which will cost around $25 million in local Tongan currency. New Zealand-based company Creative Spaces was reported to have secured the contract to upgrade the stadium. However, work has yet to begin on the venue. PNG will also support Tonga with its high-performance centre where elite athletes will be prepared to represent the host country in the Pacific Games and other international sporting events. executive director of the PGC, said that the solution is for Tonga to be a walking games where athletes can be housed in schools around the country's capital city. In rugby news, just days away from the Capital Rugby Union finals this weekend, members of affiliated clubs have debated the points deduction system and change in table points after Defence Rugby Union was dropped to third place. The CRU has not yet confirmed draws for the weekend. An immediate meeting has been scheduled by the sanctioned union this evening to iron out issues that may affect the rollout of the finals scheduled for the weekend at the Tarama Barracks. To rugby league now, the PNG LNG Kumul's team to face Fiji Butties in next weekend's Pacific Test clash has been named. The team includes 10 players from the SB PNG Hunters, with 5 players to make their debut in the Kumul's jersey.
He's going to send it out.
David Mead from the Gold Coast Titans has been selected as fullback, while debutants Justin Olam and Stagroth Amin play on the wings. Kato Tio and Nene McDonald play in the centres, while brothers Ase and Watson Boas look after the halves. Wartovo Puara Jr. comes in as hooker, while Luke Page, Henry Noki, Reese Martin, Rod Griffin and Adam Korave play up front. Adex Wera, Brandy Peter, Willie Minoga, Ket Baptiste and Timothy Lomai will come off the bench. Coach Michael Marum says depending on this weekend's matches, if there may be any injuries, they will be dropped from the team.
I want to be admitted. We also have 4 set of players. Won't be naming them, but okay, if any of the players named today gets injured during Sunday's game, those set of players will come in straight away.
Ex-Kumuls have come back to support the team and be part of the coaching staff.
They got team managers Anwar Coventi, assisted by Marcus Pai. So Marcus, former Kumul, was always willing to come back and assist, but now we've given him the opportunity to come back in. So head trainer Solomon Kulunasi with Johnny Wilse and David Wesley. So all former Kumul players that all are coming in to assist the team as well. So
PNG LNG project has come on board as the major sponsor of the Kumuls. Speaking on behalf of PNG LNG, Stephen Busin congratulated the players on their selection.
Congratulations to the players who have been selected and pull on the PNG LNG Kumuls jersey for next week in Sydney. It's a great honor for your country, and your selection is a reflection of your commitment and excellence to the sport.
The team will gather in Penrith on Monday the 2nd of May, where they'll undergo medical tests. They will have 5 days to prepare before the match on the 7th of May at the Parramatta Stadium. Elijah Levet, National MTV Sports.
Kangaroos coach Mal Meninga has named the Australian Test team to face New Zealand in Newcastle on the 6th of May. The annual Trans-Tasman Test could be the beginning of the Kangaroos' expedition to reclaim their spot as the best team in International Rugby League. The Kangaroos named their 4th most experienced lineup ever to face the Kiwis for the Hunters Stadium clash, including 6 club captains. He also wrote to Kangaroos debutants Semi Randrandra, Blake Ferguson, Josh Maguire and Michael Morgan. Meninga is keen to bolster the status of International Rugby League as he prepares for his first game in charge of the Australian side. And that ends Trukai Sports. The weather details when we come back.
Trukai Sports. Trukai Sports.
Looking at the weather forecast for tonight and tomorrow in the southern region, mostly fine for Pomosbi, Daru and Popondetta. Chances of showers for Kerma and a shower or 2 in Alotau. In the Momase region, a shower or 2 for Lae City, mostly fine in Madang, Wewak and Bunnymoor. In the New Guinea Islands region, mostly fine for all centres. And also in the Highlands region, mostly fine in all centres. Now, before we go, today marks 2 weeks since the Kiunga plane crash that claimed 12 lives, 11 passengers from Telefomin in the Sandown province and an Australian pilot. Investigations into the cause of the plane crash are continuing, while relatives of the victims make preparations to take their loved ones home for burial. Sarah Aupong with this update.
The location of the crash site has posed some challenges for the investigation team. David Inau, the CEO of the Accidents Investigation Commission, said in a report that the wreckage was submerged in water following heavy rain and rising flood waters, which forced them to move the wreckage to Kiunga Airport. This was done last week Friday. The manufacturer of the aircraft engine is Rolls-Royce, and a representative of the company is already in the country to assist with investigations. So far, they have identified both engines, both propellers, and the caution warning panel as possible contributing factors towards the plane crash, and those parts will be sent overseas for further analysis. As for the deceased, the remains of Australian pilot Benjamin Pickard have been released to his family after an autopsy was carried out last week. The bodies of the 11 passengers remain at the Kiunga Hospital morgue awaiting autopsy. Inau said a coronial inquiry has commenced and further lab testing will be done on the 12 in Australia. As far as funding towards this investigation, AIC paid for the autopsy on the pilot. For the 11 passengers, relatives were told that they will be paying 27,000 kina for their autopsy. But as of yesterday, Sunbird Aviation has paid that bill, and according to Inau, most of the bill incurred in this investigation will be met by Sunbird Aviation. Meanwhile, relatives in Kiunga have started shipping materials to Oksapmin for burial preparations to begin for the 11 passengers. The relatives wait for further news on the release of their loved ones' remains. Sarah Aupong, National EMTV News.
World Intellectual Property Day highlights the significance of having legal ownership rights to designs, inventions or trademarks. The day was celebrated in Leh today. More than 100 students from 5 selected schools, including Unitech's Computer Science Department, were reminded of copyrights in technology. Registrar Amelia Naru says the Intellectual Property Office also seeks to uphold the rights of a party's ownership to creations or inventions.
Fake or imitated creations have long been an issue in the area of technology, which in most cases calls for protection. The Intellectual Property Office Registrar Amelia Naru explains that the trend of productions in technology is moving fast, so the intellectual property laws have to be present to regulate them.
They can oppose the trademark under our office during opposition, or they can take the matter to court. It's a challenging issue to deal with fake products, and we do not do policing of these marks that come into, conflicting marks that come into the market. So it needs a concerted effort by different government agencies like the customs, intellectual property and the police.
Apart from the property rights, the Intellectual Property Office sees that knowledge about ownership rights on certain inventions is needed. Some of the students who were present gave their thoughts on how they see copywriting as an important aspect in artistic creations.
It's good that they're inviting us students to come to this session so that we can go out and tell other students what we can do with, if we have creative minds out there, they can create new things and develop our nation. So yeah, we can not only use or other technologies from other countries, but we have to create our own.
The Computer Science Department of the PNG University of Technology, which engages in researching technology, was an important participant.
In software development, I think it's very important for especially our students and also the staff to know about intellectual property. Most of the software or applications, especially computer applications that are created within, some of them are basically created out there of their own knowledge.
Colin Barilai, National EMTV News, Leh.
Now recapping our main stories for tonight. Manus MP says closure of detention centre was expected. PM opens 9 million kina state-of-the-art building in Mount Hagen, and preparations underway for the visit of India's president tomorrow. And that's the news, sports and weather for tonight, Wednesday, the 27th of April 2016. On behalf of the entire news team, I'm Lorraine Genia. Pleasant viewing. Good night.